In a distant galaxy, on a planet named Zerathia, a grand arena stood at the heart of a bustling alien city. Colorful banners fluttered in the wind, and alien spectators filled the seats, their eyes sparkling with excitement. Today was a special day. The arena was about to welcome a new competitor, a human from Earth. Jake was the first human to arrive on this planet for a combat training program. He stepped off the spaceship, feeling the heat of the sun on his skin and hearing the strange sounds of the alien crowd. He looked up at the towering structures and the unusual sky filled with two suns. Jake's heart raced with a mix of fear and excitement. He knew he was different from the warriors around him, but he was determined to prove himself. As he walked toward the arena, Jake could feel the curious stares of the aliens. Some whispered to each other, clearly unsure what to think of this human. Would he be strong? Would he survive? He tried to shake off the nerves, reminding himself of the training he had done back on Earth. When he reached the arena's entrance, Jake took a deep breath. The loud cheers echoed around him. Today, he would show these aliens what a human could do. With determination in his eyes, Jake stepped into the arena, ready to face whatever challenges awaited him. Little did he know that this was just the beginning of a remarkable adventure that would change how everyone viewed humanity. As Jake stepped into the arena, he felt a rush of energy. The crowd was cheering, their voices a mix of excitement and curiosity. He looked around, taking in the colorful alien beings watching him from every side. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few were made entirely of light. It was like stepping into a world he had only dreamed of. The arena was vast and circular, with smooth, hard ground that gleamed under the twin suns. In the center, a large platform was set up with various weapons and training equipment. Jake's heart raced as he approached the center, feeling both nervous and eager. An alien trainer named Zorak stood waiting for him. Zorak was tall and muscular, covered in shimmering blue skin. His eyes glowed with an intensity that made Jake feel both intimidated and excited. "Welcome, human," Zorak said in a deep voice that echoed through the arena. "Today, you will begin your training. Show us what you can do." Jake nodded, trying to look confident. He had trained hard back on Earth, but he had never faced opponents like this before. As the training session began, Zorak explained the rules. "In Zerathia, we train to fight with honor and skill. You must learn to respect your opponents, but do not hold back." The first exercise was simple. Jake was to practice using a wooden staff against Zorak. The alien moved quickly, demonstrating impressive agility and strength. Jake felt the weight of the staff in his hands and tried to mimic Zorak's movements. He swung the staff, but it was clumsy. Zorak smiled, encouraging him to try again. After several attempts, Jake finally began to find his rhythm. He focused on his balance and movement, remembering the martial arts classes he had taken back home. Each strike became smoother, and Jake felt a sense of pride growing within him. The crowd began to cheer, and Jake realized they were starting to respect him. Next, Zorak introduced Jake to the other trainees. They were all aliens, and at first, they were skeptical of Jake. But as they watched him practice, their attitude began to change. One alien named Krell, who had bright red skin and 4 arms, approached Jake after the training session. "You fight well for a human," Krell said, his voice a mix of surprise and admiration. "I didn't expect you to keep up." Jake smiled, feeling encouraged. "Thanks. I'm just trying my best." As the days went on, Jake trained hard. He learned how to use different weapons and combat techniques. Each session pushed him to his limits, but he didn't give up. The other trainees started to warm up to him, sharing stories about their homeworlds and training methods. Jake felt a bond forming with them. One day, during a break, Krell invited Jake to a traditional alien meal. Jake was excited but also nervous about trying new foods. At the meal, he tasted strange fruits and dishes that looked unlike anything on Earth. To his surprise, he found he enjoyed the flavors, and the other trainees laughed and cheered him on. They shared jokes, and for the first time, Jake felt like he truly belonged. However, not everything was easy. Some aliens still doubted his strength and skill. A particularly tough alien named Vrax challenged him. Vrax was known for his fierce nature and brutal fighting style. He stepped forward during a training session, glaring at Jake. "I will show you how weak humans really are," Vrax said, his voice low and threatening. The crowd fell silent, watching intently. Jake felt a chill run down his spine, but he stood tall. "I won't back down," he replied, trying to sound brave. The challenge was set for the next day, and Jake spent the night preparing. He knew this was a chance to prove himself, not just to Vrax, but to everyone in the arena. He practiced until he could hardly keep his eyes open, repeating the techniques he had learned. When the day of the duel arrived, the arena was filled with spectators, their excitement palpable. Jake stood in the center, feeling the weight of their gazes on him. He took a deep breath, recalling his training and the friendships he had made. As Vrax entered the arena, the tension grew. Jake knew this fight was about more than just skill. It was about showing that a human could stand alongside the greatest warriors of the galaxy. With determination burning in his heart, Jake prepared for the challenge ahead, ready to face whatever came next. Duel. The arena buzzed with anticipation as Jake squared off against Vrax. The bright lights flickered, casting dramatic shadows over the ground. The crowd roared, their voices blending into a deafening chorus. Jake's heart pounded in his chest, but he forced himself to focus. He had trained hard for this moment, and he couldn't let fear take over. Vrax stepped forward, his four muscular arms flexing as he brandished a long, sharp spear. The alien warrior's eyes glinted with confidence, and a smirk crossed his face. "Are you ready to face defeat, human?" he taunted, his voice dripping with mockery. Jake tightened his grip on his staff, a wooden weapon that felt surprisingly comfortable in his hands. "I'm ready to fight," he replied, his voice steady despite the nerves churning inside him. He had faced many challenges in his life, but this one felt different. This was not just about him. It was about proving humans could be strong and resilient. The crowd fell silent as the duel began. Vrax charged forward, his spear aimed directly at Jake. With quick reflexes, Jake dodged to the side, narrowly avoiding the sharp tip. He spun around, swinging his staff in a wide arc to counterattack. Vrax easily sidestepped, laughing as he did so. "Is that all you've got?" he jeered, confidence radiating from him. Jake's frustration bubbled beneath the surface. He couldn't let Vrax's taunts shake him. Instead, he used it as motivation. Remembering Zorak's advice about maintaining focus and respecting his opponent, Jake took a deep breath. With renewed determination, Jake shifted his stance. He remembered all the techniques he had practiced, and he started to apply them. He feinted to the left, making Vrax shift his weight in response. In that moment of hesitation, Jake struck with all his might, the staff connecting solidly with Vrax's side. The crowd gasped in shock. Vrax stumbled, surprised by the force of the blow. Jake seized the opportunity, pushing forward with a series of quick strikes. He was surprised at how natural it felt, as if all his training was coming together. Each hit landed with precision, and Jake could see Vrax's confidence wavering. But Vrax was not to be underestimated. With a fierce growl, he regained his footing and countered with a powerful thrust of his spear. Jake barely had time to react, leaping backward just in time to avoid a direct hit. The sharp tip of the spear grazed his arm, sending a jolt of pain through him, but he fought through it, refusing to show any weakness. As the duel continued, both combatants exchanged blows, each trying to outmaneuver the other. The crowd watched in awe, captivated by the intensity of the fight. Aliens of all shapes and sizes cheered for their champion, but they couldn't help but be impressed by Jake's determination and skill. Jake felt his energy waning, but he refused to give in. He knew he had to find a way to end this duel. As Vrax lunged again, Jake took a calculated risk. He dropped low, ducking under the spear and using his staff to trip Vrax. The alien warrior fell to the ground with a thud, and the crowd erupted in cheers and gasps. Jake seized the moment. He quickly climbed onto Vrax's back, using his weight to hold him down. "Yield!" Jake shouted, breathless. The arena went silent as everyone waited to see what Vrax would do. For a moment, it seemed as though the fierce warrior would resist. But then, to everyone's surprise, Vrax let out a low growl of frustration. "Fine, I yield," he barked. The crowd exploded with excitement, their cheers ringing out across the arena. Jake released Vrax and stood up, breathing heavily but filled with a rush of triumph. He had won, not just the duel, but the respect of the aliens around him. The cheers grew louder as the other trainees rushed into the arena to congratulate him. Zorak stepped forward, pride evident in his eyes. "You have shown great strength and skill today, human. You have proven that you can stand among us." Jake smiled, feeling a warmth spread through him. He had come to this alien world as an outsider, but now he felt like he belonged. He had faced his fears and fought with everything he had. As the crowd continued to cheer, Jake realized this was just the beginning. He was ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that he had friends and allies by his side. Together, they would continue to train, fight, and learn from one another, creating bonds that would last far beyond the arena. After the thrilling duel, Jake found himself surrounded by the other trainees, their excited chatter filling the arena. Each one of them approached him, eager to congratulate him on his victory. It was an overwhelming but joyous moment. He had not only fought well, but had also gained their respect and friendship. Krell, the red-skinned alien who had initially welcomed him, clapped Jake on the back, nearly knocking him off balance. "You really surprised us all, human," Krell exclaimed, his eyes wide with admiration. "I didn't think you could take down Vrax so easily." Jake chuckled, still feeling the adrenaline from the fight. "Thanks. I guess I just focused on what I learned in training." He looked around at the faces of his new friends, feeling grateful for their support. Zorak joined them, a proud smile on his face. "You have proven yourself today, Jake. But remember, there is much more to learn. Strength is important, but so is strategy. You will need both to excel in combat." Jake nodded, eager to absorb every piece of advice. As the days passed, he trained harder than ever. Zorak organized sessions that combined combat techniques with strategy games. They would often gather in the arena, where Jake would face off against different opponents, learning new tactics each time. The training was intense, but Jake loved every moment of it. He found himself bonding with his fellow trainees over their shared experiences. They would often share stories about their home worlds, customs, and cultures. Jake learned about Krell's planet, which was a hot desert, and how his people had to be quick and agile to survive. In return, he shared stories about Earth and the many challenges humans had faced throughout their history. One afternoon, after a particularly grueling training session, Jake and the others sat together on the arena sidelines, resting and laughing. They shared a meal of alien fruits that Krell had brought, each bite bursting with flavors Jake had never experienced before. "Do humans have gladiators?" Krell asked, curiosity shining in his eyes. Jake thought for a moment. "Not in the same way you do, but we have had warriors and fighters throughout history. They were celebrated for their strength and skill. But our fights were usually more for entertainment or sport, not as serious as the duels here." The conversation shifted to their training and the upcoming challenges. Zorak announced that they would be having a special competition soon, where all the trainees would showcase their skills. Jake's excitement grew. This was another chance to prove himself and show what he had learned. However, not all the trainees were welcoming. Vrax, though begrudgingly impressed, still held a fierce rivalry with Jake. He spent his training sessions glaring at Jake from across the arena, pushing himself harder, as if trying to prove he was better. Jake could sense the tension in the air, but he didn't let it deter him. Instead, He used it as motivation to improve. One day, during a particularly intense practice session, Vrax challenged Jake again. This time, it was not in the arena, but in a training exercise. Zorak had divided the trainees into teams to practice combat strategies. Jake was excited to work alongside Krell and a few other trainees, but Vrax was on the opposing team. As the teams prepared, Vrax's voice rang out, dripping with contempt. "I hope you're ready for a real challenge, human. I will not hold back this time." Jake felt a surge of determination. "Bring it on, Vrax. I'm ready." The match began, and the two teams quickly fell into their strategies. Jake and Krell worked seamlessly together, using quick movements and clever tactics. They managed to outsmart their opponents, and Jake felt the thrill of teamwork guiding him. But Vrax was relentless. He fought fiercely, his every move calculated and aggressive. Jake and Krell struggled to keep up with Vrax's brute strength, and Jake found himself pushed to his limits. Yet, as the match wore on, he remembered Zorak's words about strategy. With a sudden idea, Jake whispered a plan to Krell. They feigned a retreat, drawing Vrax and his team into a chase. Just as they expected, Vrax became overconfident and rushed in, leaving himself open. Jake and Krell turned and executed a perfect counterattack, using their combined strength to take down Vrax. The crowd erupted in cheers as the match ended, and Jake felt a rush of excitement and pride. They had worked together, combining their strengths to win against a fierce opponent. Jake turned to Krell, who was grinning from ear to ear. "We did it!" Krell exclaimed, pumping his fists in celebration. But Jake knew that while he had won this match, Vrax would be back, more determined than ever. He could feel the rivalry intensifying, but he was ready for it. With each challenge, he was growing stronger, both as a fighter and as a friend. He looked forward to the upcoming competition, ready to showcase not only his skills, but the bonds he had formed with his fellow trainees. The day of the competition had finally arrived, and the arena buzzed with excitement. Alien cadets from all corners of the galaxy filled the stands, their bright colors and unique features creating a vibrant tapestry. The air was thick with anticipation, and Jake could feel the energy pulsing around him. Today was the moment he had been training for, a chance to show what he had learned and prove himself to everyone, including Vrax. As Jake stood in the locker room, preparing for the event, he could hear the cheers and roars from the crowd outside. Krell, standing beside him, was bouncing on the balls of his feet, his eyes shining with eagerness. "This is it. We've trained so hard for this moment. Let's make it count." Jake nodded, trying to calm the butterflies in his stomach. "I'm ready. Let's give it our all." The announcer's voice boomed through the arena, calling everyone to their places. The sound sent a thrill down Jake's spine. The competition was set to begin with a series of duels, followed by team challenges. Each event would test their combat skills, strategy, and teamwork. As the first duel began, Jake watched from the sidelines. One cadet, a tall blue alien named Thok, faced off against a smaller but agile creature from a planet covered in dense forests. The match was intense, with Thok's size giving him an advantage in strength, while the forest dweller used speed and agility to dodge and weave around him. The crowd was on the edge of their seats, cheering for both fighters as they displayed incredible skills. Finally, Thok landed a powerful blow, knocking his opponent to the ground. The audience erupted in applause. Jake couldn't help but feel inspired. He was eager to step into the arena himself and show what he could do. After a few more matches, it was time for Jake's duel. His heart raced as he stepped forward, the roar of the crowd echoing in his ears. He looked up to see Vrax standing across from him, a fierce determination on his face. The tension in the air was palpable. Jake felt a mix of excitement and nerves. This was not just a duel. It was a chance to settle their rivalry once and for all. Zorak stood at the edge of the arena, watching intently. "Remember, Jake, use your skills and stay focused. You can win this." With a nod, Jake took a deep breath and positioned himself. The announcer's voice rang out, signaling the start of the duel. Let the match begin. Vrax charged forward, using his size to close the distance quickly. Jake, remembering his training, sidestepped at the last moment, dodging the initial attack. He could feel the adrenaline pumping through his veins as he quickly countered with a series of strikes. Each blow was met with fierce resistance, but Jake was determined not to back down. The duel went back and forth, each fighter pushing the other to their limits. Vrax's strength was formidable, but Jake had learned to use his agility and strategy to his advantage. He focused on dodging Vrax's powerful swings, waiting for the right moment to strike. As the match wore on, both fighters began to show signs of fatigue. Vrax's heavy breathing echoed in the arena, while Jake could feel the strain in his muscles. But he refused to give up. He remembered his friends and their support, and that motivated him to keep going. In a moment of desperation, Vrax lunged forward, trying to land a decisive blow. Jake saw his opening. Instead of retreating, he decided to go on the offensive. He ducked under Vrax's arm and delivered a powerful kick to his opponent's side. The crowd gasped as Vrax stumbled, but quickly regained his balance. Jake could feel the adrenaline surge as he pressed on, unleashing a series of quick, calculated strikes. Vrax, caught off guard, struggled to keep up. Each hit pushed him back, and the crowd erupted in cheers for Jake. Finally, with one last push, Jake delivered a powerful strike to Vrax's chest, sending him crashing to the ground. The arena erupted with roars of excitement. Jake stood tall, breathing heavily but filled with a sense of victory. He had done it. As the announcer declared him the winner, the crowd erupted in applause. Jake looked around, filled with pride and disbelief. He had faced his rival and come out on top. But even as he celebrated, he noticed Vrax slowly rising to his feet, a look of grudging respect on his face. Not bad for a human, Vrax admitted, extending a hand. You've earned my respect, Jake. Jake took Vrax's hand, shaking it firmly. Thanks. You pushed me to be better. The two opponents shared a moment of camaraderie before Jake turned back to his friends, who were cheering and celebrating. Krell rushed over, his face lit up with excitement. You did it. You were amazing. As the competition continued, Jake knew that this was just the beginning of his journey. He had faced challenges, forged friendships, and earned respect in the alien community. With each match, he was growing stronger, not only as a fighter but as a person. The next challenges awaited, and Jake was ready to take them on, determined to show that humans could stand tall among the stars. The atmosphere in the arena buzzed with excitement after Jake's victorious duel against Vrax. Cheers and applause echoed all around him, and Jake felt a rush of exhilaration. But as the celebrations began to settle, a sense of unease crept into his mind. He had not just earned respect from the alien cadets. He had also caught the attention of their instructors. They were keenly watching his progress. The next event was set to be a team challenge, which meant Jake would need to rely on his fellow cadets to achieve success. Krell and the others were pumped and ready for action, but Jake felt a twinge of anxiety. This was a new test, one that would require both strategy and teamwork. He had to ensure they worked together seamlessly. As the instructors announced the details of the team challenge, Jake listened carefully. They would face a series of simulated combat scenarios designed to test their ability to work as a unit. Each team would have to solve problems while dealing with unexpected obstacles. The pressure was on, and the stakes were higher than ever. After the briefing, Jake gathered with his team. Krell, Vrax, and a few other cadets were there, their expressions a mix of excitement and seriousness. Okay, guys, Jake began. We need to communicate well and support each other. We've trained hard for this moment, and we can't let down now. Krell nodded enthusiastically. I believe we can do this. Let's show them what we've got. The team made their way to the training arena, where they would face their first challenge. The arena transformed into a mock battlefield, with obstacles, hiding spots, and enemy simulations ready to test them. Jake felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He needed to lead the team effectively, but he also needed to trust them. The first scenario began, and the team quickly took positions. As soon as the countdown ended, the simulated enemies appeared, armed and ready. Jake shouted commands, directing everyone where to go. Krell, cover the left flank. Vrax, take the center. I'll deal with the right side. The team moved into action, and Jake felt the thrill of combat rush through him. He dodged enemy fire, using his agility to outmaneuver the simulated attackers. Krell and Vrax fought valiantly, each working to protect their teammates. The atmosphere was electric as they engaged in battle, adrenaline pumping through their veins. But things took a sudden turn. An unexpected wave of enemies swarmed in from the left, catching Krell off guard. Jake, Krell shouted as he struggled to fend off the attackers. Jake's heart raced. They had not anticipated this. Without thinking, Jake dashed towards Krell, determined to help him. He tackled an enemy from behind, knocking it down and giving Krell a moment to regroup. Stay close. We can do this together, he yelled. Krell nodded, his determination renewed. Together, they pushed through the onslaught, covering each other's backs. Meanwhile, Vrax held his ground, using his strength to fend off several attackers at once. The team began to work in harmony, moving as one unit. As the challenge progressed, they faced more obstacles, but each setback only brought them closer. They learned to rely on one another's strengths, adapting their strategies on the fly. Jake felt a sense of pride as he watched his teammates rise to the occasion. They were not just individuals fighting side by side. They had become a team. Finally, after an intense battle, they defeated the last of the simulated enemies. The arena filled with cheers from the watching cadets and instructors. Jake and his team shared high fives and cheers, their faces lit with joy. But just as the celebration began, the instructors announced the final challenge, a face-off against another team in a high-stakes duel. Jake felt a jolt of nervous energy. They had proven themselves in the simulations, but now it was time for a real fight. The opposing team was made up of some of the strongest cadets from their academy. Jake's heart raced at the thought of facing them, but he knew they had trained for this. They had fought together and forged bonds that would see them through. "Listen up," Jake said, gathering his team. "We've come this far, and I believe in all of you. Let's stick to our strategy and trust each other. We can do this." Krell, Vrax, and the rest of the team nodded, determination shining in their eyes. As they stepped into the arena, the crowd's cheers filled the air, a chorus of support urging them on. Jake took a deep breath, ready to show that they could stand against any challenge. As the match began, the tension was palpable. Jake focused on his teammates, ready to lead them to victory. This was their moment to shine, and they would fight together until the end. With courage in their hearts, they charged into battle, ready to face whatever came their way. The stakes were higher than ever, but Jake felt a surge of confidence. They had each other, and together, they were unstoppable. The arena hummed with energy as Jake and his team prepared for the ultimate test. Facing them was a formidable squad of alien cadets, each boasting impressive combat skills and experience. As the opponents entered the arena, the tension among Jake's team was palpable. They had fought hard to get here, and now it was time to prove themselves against the best. "Stay focused," Jake said, glancing at Krell and Vrax. "We've trained for this. Remember our strategy, and let's trust each other." The match began, and the opponents wasted no time. They charged forward, their movements precise and coordinated. Jake's heart raced as he called out commands, directing his team into their positions. "Krell, take the left flank. Vrax, hold the center. I'll handle the right." The battle erupted into chaos. Jake engaged an opponent head-on, dodging their strikes with agile footwork. He could feel the adrenaline surging through him as he blocked their attacks and countered with quick jabs. The crowd roared in excitement, but Jake kept his focus sharp. He had to lead his team to victory. Meanwhile, Krell fought valiantly, using his speed to evade the attacks of two opponents at once. He darted in and out, landing quick strikes and drawing the enemy's attention away from his teammates. Vrax, a powerhouse, stood his ground against multiple opponents, using sheer strength to push them back. The team had fallen into a rhythm, and it was exhilarating. But then, something unexpected happened. The opposing team had a secret weapon, an alien warrior known for his brutal fighting style. He charged towards Jake, eyes locked on him like a predator stalking its prey. Jake's breath hitched in his throat. He had seen this warrior in earlier matches, and he was a force to be reckoned with. "Jake, watch out," Krell shouted as he saw the incoming threat. Jake turned just in time to see the warrior barreling towards him. He instinctively dropped into a defensive stance, ready for the clash. The alien struck with a powerful blow, and Jake barely managed to deflect it. The force of the attack sent shockwaves through his body, but he stood firm. "Is that all you've got?" Jake taunted, his voice steady despite the adrenaline pumping through his veins. He was not going to back down. The warrior snarled and came at him again, faster this time. Jake quickly analyzed the warrior's movements, looking for an opening. He dodged to the side, allowing the alien to overshoot his attack. In that brief moment of vulnerability, Jake countered with a swift kick, landing it squarely on the warrior's side. The crowd erupted in cheers, and Jake felt a surge of confidence. He could do this, but he knew the fight was far from over. The alien warrior was tough, and he would not stay down easily. As the duel continued, both fighters exchanged blows, each trying to gain the upper hand. Meanwhile, Krell and Vrax were holding their own against the remaining opponents. The atmosphere was electric, filled with the sounds of combat, grunts, and cheers. Jake could hear Krell's voice, strategizing and coordinating their movements, while Vrax showed impressive strength, pushing back multiple opponents at once. Just as Jake thought he had the upper hand, the warrior unleashed a powerful strike that sent him sprawling to the ground. Pain shot through his body, but Jake fought to stand. He was not going to give up. With sheer determination, he pushed himself back up, shaking off the dizziness. The crowd cheered louder, urging him on. They believed in him, and he couldn't let them down. Gathering every ounce of strength, he faced the alien warrior once more, determined to finish the fight. As they engaged again, Jake spotted a gap in the warrior's defense. This was his chance. He feigned a left jab, and then quickly shifted right, landing a precise strike to the warrior's solar plexus. The alien gasped, momentarily stunned, and Jake took advantage of the opening. He followed up with a flurry of punches, each hit landing harder than the last. The warrior staggered back, struggling to regain his balance. Jake felt exhilarated. He was pushing through the limits of his strength and skill. With one final blow, Jake delivered a powerful uppercut that sent the alien warrior crashing to the ground. The arena erupted into applause and cheers as Jake stood victorious. He had faced the toughest challenge of his life and emerged triumphant. Krell and Vrax joined him, their faces beaming with pride. They had proven themselves as a team, supporting one another through thick and thin. Jake felt a wave of camaraderie wash over him, knowing they had fought together and achieved greatness. As they stood in the center of the arena, the instructors approached them, smiles on their faces. "You have shown incredible skill and teamwork today," one of the instructors declared. "You have earned respect not only from your fellow cadets, but from the entire academy." The crowd continued to cheer, and Jake's heart swelled with pride. They had come so far together, and he knew this was just the beginning of their journey. The bonds they had forged in battle would carry them forward, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. In that moment, Jake realized that being a Deathworlder was more than just survival. It was about strength, teamwork, and the unyielding spirit of humanity. They had proven that they could face any challenge head-on, and together, they were unstoppable.